Okay, so for the second chapter of the hands-on data visualization book, it basically goes through some basics of using spreadsheets. The book itself focuses more on Google Sheets than on Excel or the other ones. And while a lot of the things can be done in Excel, this particular chapter, you're going to be working mostly in Google Sheets. I assume that a lot of you know your way around Excel, and so a lot of this will be just a review. So a quick activity. Those of you who haven't done much with Google Sheets itself, there's some cool things that you'll learn in here. Geocoding is something that's pretty cool that I'm betting that most of you haven't done before. We'll also go over how to create forms in Google Sheets, which is really useful for quick collection of data. It's not something that you'd want to do a survey like a psychology survey where you have protected data and things like that. But like my sister uses Google Sheets or Google Forms to collect addresses for our Christmas cards every year, things like that, where it's like low stakes, not heavily protected data. Organizations are less likely to use it, but it's a lot of the skills in it are the same as what you would use for a more advanced platform such as Qualtrics, or even a middle level platform like SurveyMonkey or things like that. So for this chapter, we're basically going to follow along with the book. So the book is going to have you copy a file that they have that has a lot of data, add in geocoding, create a form, do some filtering, make pivot tables, do some basic functions such as VLOOKUPs. So if this stuff is new to you, perfect opportunity to learn this stuff real quick. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to kind of walk you along the chapter in case you need the extra support. If you're a little bit more familiar with this stuff and self-guided, you don't have to listen to me ramble for the rest of this particular video, and you can skip to the next one. Just make sure that you do the activities because you'll be turning that in as part of your homework. With that, I'm going to pause for a brief second here. Okay, so as we go through this, this is basically an overview of what it's going to do. Talks a little bit about the tools. Generally speaking, most of you will be using Access, I'm guessing, although Google Sheets, I actually really like Google Sheets. It's not bad to be familiar with both of those. Talks a little bit about different data formats. CSV being our big one for exporting, because all of the different sheets, different apps basically use CSV. Here, so we want to, okay, so this is the first link of many that they drop in here. Look, this is the wrong one. Yep. Oh, that's a subset. No, sorry. There we go. So I'm going to open this in a new tab. So this is a data set that they have of survey data, and please do read the text. I'm just running through this really quick. So what we're going to do is follow its instructions to make a copy, putting it into your own drive. I'm just going to shorten that because that's a lot of words. And you're going to have this in your very own drive. This will obviously only work if you have a Google account. If you don't have one, just make one really quick, a Gmail account. That way you can use their drive and follow along with this. I kind of expect that most of you already have one of these. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to close the original tab. The next section of this, if you don't know how to share things, here's instructions how. You'll need this later when you share it to me. So if you don't know how, bookmark that in your brain. The first thing that we're going to do with this actually is going to be to do this geocoding address thing. So what you're going to do is make sure that you add in this add-on. I already have it, so that's why it says uninstall for me, but that should say install for you. So go ahead and add in the plugin. It's should take you just a minute, super quick. Once you have that in here, you will be able to see this, so add-ons. Go ahead and click this create template, and because my little zoom controls are right in the way of all my tabs and stuff, of course, let me make this slightly smaller so I can actually use the things here. All right, so this is the original data that we have. This is the geocoding. I'm just gonna switch that this way for ease. So what you have here are the 3 addresses that it has set up in here. What I want you to do is try this out by adding in the school's address. So I just Googled SPU address. I'm just going to copy that over in here. Okay, formatted it. The country, it defaults to the US, so you don't have to add that in if you don't want. And then in here, you just click geocode. And it's going to think about life, and then it's going to give us the longitude and latitude, just like that. Also, if you look up SPU's address in like Google Maps, this is what it pulls up. The address is technically for McKinley Hall SPU, so that's why it says that. But that way we can actually grab the latitude and longitude for any maps that we want to do, which is a pretty cool little feature in here. Okay, so for your homework, I want you to see at least this. If you want to play around and add more addresses, that is totally cool. But I definitely want to make sure that I see that line there, SPU. Okay. Next thing that it goes into is how to do Google Forms. And for this activity, I just want you to create a Google form. It has all the directions here. And just recreate this. So it only has a few questions in here. The timestamp is automatic, so you don't need to do that. You will need questions for name, location, web link, experience, years of school, occupation, and learning goal. So those are the questions that we need. So the way that you do forms, and again, just a reminder if this is going by very quickly, sorry. But you know, pause when you need to find things. So forms is right here. So insert form. So it's going to give you basically the name of your original sheet here is what it copies over into the form name here. I'm just going to rename it a little bit there. Starts you off with a question. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that into a separate tab just for my ease, because otherwise it's a little annoying to have to switch back and forth between tabs. All right. So first question is name. Apologies for the motorcycle if you can hear my neighbor. Usually stuff like that I add in required, but you can see in here that they allowed for blanks. So we're not going to put required because we're just duplicating it. This gives you a duplicate of the same question like that. So we can use that if we're using the same format. That's usually the fastest way. So the location, and here you can see that the formatting that people were giving is kind of random. if you wanted to give them a little bit more instruction in here, you can add a description, say like city, state, country if out of US, and then that would give us a little bit more structure there, and the data would be less dirty. But as a peer duplicate, they obviously did not give them instructions, or people didn't follow the instructions, so you don't have to do that. Next one is a web link. If you wanted to do data validation on this, there you go, response validation. You can, let's see, it's been a minute since I see. So text contains, there you go, web link. So it wants this to be a URL. So this would force this column here, D, to be a web link if they put anything in there. You can see that they did not do any validation. So I'm gonna delete that, but that would be the better practice. If you want to add in those just for practice, please feel free to do so. Experience with data visualization. I'm just gonna copy paste the text there, so I don't have to worry about spelling things correctly. So I also misspell data visualization as much as I mispronounce it. Years of school. These, everyone did numbers, and yeah, so let's add the data visualization there, or response validation there. So we're gonna say that it's a number, is a whole number. So we're not gonna let them put in 2.5, for example. They're gonna be whole numbers only, because that's what I'm seeing here. That works out perfectly. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here. So response validation is a whole number. Boom. Okay. If we'd wanted to, if we switch these orders around, our columns in our data sheet over here is not going to switch around intuitively. Just by the way, if you're not used to Google Forms. So it's best if you can do this in one go and do them in order correctly. Okay, so the next one is occupation. Again, copy and paste is my friend. This one is not bad. This one looks like they might have had limited fields available. So just out of curiosity, I'm going to check that. There we go. Yeah, because I would expect that people just responding on stuff on their own, you'd get also some random stuff and a lot of the spellings and such, but they have these nice, neat lists here. So easy way to do something like that, to recreate it, would be, let's see, let's do this alphabetical other than the other and retired. The educator, let's copy and paste. Government, information technology, journalism, nonprofit. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna do student. I'm going to do retired, other not employed. Do I like this order? Yeah, others usually so much towards the end, but not employed is like obviously different than the rest of them. So, okay, so that works for me. Okay, so because I just used this pivot table to see what was going on in there, I'm going to go ahead and delete that sheet, that sheet. All right. Let's see. Now, learning goal, this is a freeform thing. So I have been doing that duplicate feature. This is the real way to add a new question that doesn't do a duplicate thing. For this one, we want to make sure that we give them a little bit more space. So I'm going to give them the paragraph one. That just makes the line longer. Google Forms doesn't give you like a lot of room for typing in your responses. And see that. If you want to see the preview, what this looks like, here is our thing. So if you want to say that you wanted to give names and locations and stuff a longer line, you can give them the long blank instead of the short blank. But that's it. And you can test it out by answering this yourself. Close those. So in here, so see how this one has a little picture of the little purple picture of the form? That's how you know that it's linked to an actual form. So in your homework, I should see one form response, one form that has the copied over form data, and then this one has the data from the form. If you want to go to your form, if you go to form in here, you can go to the live form like that. You can go to the edit form here, and this brings you back to the editing screen. Yep. And then if you wanted to just get the link for sending it, you can, it brings you back over here, but basically it acts like you push that send button. So the same thing here. You can get the link. That's what I usually end up doing, is doing the link. And then when you look at the form itself, as promised, it has a column for the timestamp. Automatically, we didn't need to put in a field for that. All right, so that is creating forms. So go ahead and do that for yourself to get the practice in. Okay, and that is that one. I'm gonna pause for a second here as we transition to the more data wrangling stuff. Okay, the next section, we're gonna start with sorting and filtering. As always, there's usually multiple ways of doing whatever you're trying to do. I'm gonna actually bring this to the side so that we can both see what's going on and read what's going on. I think that, yeah, there we go. All right, so they've got a feature in here that lets you select everything. Control A will sometimes do funky things visually like that, but it also selected all the data. I'm a Control A type of person usually. But yeah, so this little corner there is what they're talking about for the select all. In here, so it's got this, you can go to data, sort range. It's not going to let you do anything if you don't have the stuff selected. So it's good, like, hey, kind of thing. So data, sort range. Here it's suggesting that we do the experience with data viz. Here it's actually, you see how if you don't have the data has header row column, it'll just have the column letters up here. But if you do that, it'll read your line 1 for you. That makes it a little easier to do. So you can do a sort easily like that. It's not usually how I do the sorting, but the MBAs that I've worked with usually use that instead of the way I do it. So maybe it's better. I don't know. it's saying here that you can freeze it. It automatically froze it because it understood that that was our header row, which is kind of cool. If you need to do the freezing, then you can do that. You can freeze more rows, you can freeze columns. So if you needed to freeze the left-hand column, you could. It doesn't make sense to do it here because timestamps. But if that first column wasn't a timestamp, if it was, for example, by name, cool feature that G Sheets does that Excel does not. So you can just grab and move these columns around like that. So you can move the time stamp to the end because we don't really care about that data in this particular data set. Whoops. Which can be a little annoying. If it's being a punk, you can just select those, delete those columns, and there you go. Timestamp is where I wanted it to go. All right, so as I was saying, if you wanted to freeze the first column, you can. Now it's frozen by both the first column and the first row, which is cool if you want to have it like that. But I don't want the names to be frozen. So let's do that again. All right. Filters. This is very similar to what Excel does. Again, this is not the way I usually do it. So you can create a filter. It automatically selected everything and added those in for you. If you didn't want to do it that way, I'm going to Control Z, delete to undo what I just did. So the filters, we just really want to do these columns. We don't really want to do the rest of them. You can just easy do it like that. It created a filter on every single column in the data sheet. I'm going to undo that. If you wanted to just select the ones that are relevant, you could also do it that way. Either way, it created the same effect. So if we wanted to sort, this is the way I usually do it, is using the filter functions. We don't have multiple colors, but if you had those, we could. You can filter by the color of the background or the color of the font. So if you had something where you had something like a conditional formatting, where if the cells were equal to 0, then they're green. So if we added conditional formatting like that, you can filter color like that and only see the green. So these are the folks that have not done any years of school at all. You can undo that filter. We could basically say we want everybody who has done at least 1 year of school. If you wanted to, let's say that the other way around, that we only wanted people that had been in, I'm just going to manually do this instead of doing the conditional formatting. That's a lot of 20s in here. Let's do something else here. So here, you clear the filters and say we only want students. Students are cool, right? So if for some reason all of these, sorry, forget motion sickness, I totally do. So if for some reason you had all these students with purple text in here, and you didn't want to do multiple filters like that, you wanted to filter here, experience with data set. If you wanted, oh, that's, there we go, sort by color. You wanted to sort these so that all the black ones come up first and then the purple. You can do things like that, or the other way around rather. all the purple comes out first, then the black. You can filter, you can sort them like that. So sorts and filters, mix and matching. I don't really want this to be purple, so I'm gonna do that. And yeah, I don't really want that conditional formatting as well. If you've never used G Sheets but you're experienced with Excel, the conditional formatting possibilities are a little different between the platforms. Just as by the way, if you're playing around with this, which I hope you do. Okay, so if you've never played around with that stuff, please do get a little familiar with it, because it's frequently needed in the datasheet world. Next is talking about how to calculate with formulas. I expect that most of you have done some of this kind of stuff before. So just follow along with what it's telling you to do here. Okay, so it's telling you to, let's see, we are, okay, adding a blank row in here. The average level of reader experience with data visualization. All right, so we're going to click on E2, which I moved around my timestamp, so for me it's actually D2. I will move my timestamp back just so this matches actually. There we go. Notice how when I did that, I lost my filter. I'm gonna get rid of my filters because of that. I'm gonna add it back. That way things don't get weird. Okay. And then it wants us to do an average and see how it does this lovely stuff for you, which is fantastic. Yeah, so just follow along with all the instructions in this. Just get used to doing like these calculations. And kind of like if you're not familiar with these, like the count ifs and stuff like that, just take the time to go ahead and just understand what's going on in there. Oops. Okay, so once you complete what the book tells you to do, which is basically the numerical stuff for these ones. So here we've taken the average years of experience. Here we've taken the average years of education. Here we've done a count of how many of these folks are educators. And of course you can do student or fill in whatever you want there, but just for the sake of everyone being on the same page, just keep it as educator. Here, and I've included the code and the instructions in the PowerPoint deck. Add that function in. That's going to tell you how many of these are filled in, non-zero responses. Okay, so I've used the same count if for the learning goal, name, location, and web link. Knowing how much data is missing versus not missing is always something that's important for data cleaning purposes, and knowing just like how your survey is being filled out. And only needed because we didn't require responses, or they didn't really. And then the last thing I added here was a equals now function. So this basically just puts in the current date and time. So right now the timestamp is organized. I filtered this back to where the starting point was. Is ordered by the time it was taken when the survey first opened in 2017. I also took off the filter off the top row, froze the top 2 rows. So here, freeze 2 rows, and added the filter back on the second row because it won't like you if you try to filter on the top row when you have a second row function series like this. And now if we want to sort the other way around, see that the most current, the last person that filled this in was a couple days ago. And if you forgot what day it is now, like you can easily see like, oh, today is the second, last person that filled it out was on the 31st. Okay. Yeah, so go ahead, do those just as a practice. Shouldn't take you very long since you're not having to Google any of the instructions on how to do it. Yeah, so that is the calculations. Okay, the next page of this is on pivot tables. If you've never done pivot tables before, this is incredibly useful. You're going to use it all the time in the business world. It just is. It's one of those things. All right, so following the instructions here again. This one actually tells you to delete the second row of our data because it doesn't want that caught up into it. We're not going to do that. Instead, I'll just make this wider. When we create our pivot table, we're just going to grab all the data there. We're going to go to pivot table. Here, I'm actually going to tell it to start the form responses instead of at, wait, should be at 2 or at 3. I think this way it will use these as the headers, which is lame. Let's try this real quick. Okay. Yeah, okay, should have been 2, I think. You can edit it real quick here. This is one of those versatility parts that Google Sheets actually does fairly well. Okay, yeah, so these rows now aren't great meaningfulness, like, because it's based off the first row here, but it's in order. So we can know that at least. So here you can see that that aligns with the names because there's the second one there. Yeah, and so in these you can always rename as needed as well, like that. All right, so that is not what we're supposed to be doing though. We are going to be selecting the occupation. All right, so in here occupation is gonna be 163. So instead of that one, we want row, or 167 rather, here. Okay, this is occupation. Boom. Okay, it wants the number of responses for each entry. So it tells you to add, do the values, count as. So I'm gonna go here. Oops, select back over here. Values, this one, count as. So we know how many occupations for each of those. And then you can do cross tabulations with occupation and experience using, so they're adding the experience with data visualization as the cross one there. We can double check here. This is the experience with data viz, it's the 2.9. So we can do the experience there. This is years of experience with data visualization. database. uh, um, there we go. We've got a nice crosstabs going on in there, just like they have in here. Beautiful, beautiful. Our data is different because from the time of printing, they've had more responses, obviously. And then go one step further, filter the data to limit the pivot tables created by another category. So here they're filtering by the years of school. Yeah, so back over here, years of school is 17. So we can do years of school, showing all items. So you can either use that type of function and that filters it one way, or you can do what they're showing in here. So there's, again, multiple ways to handle this. You can do functions, all sorts of ways of filtering it. Yeah, so it doesn't matter which way you choose to do it. Let's do a filter in some way, shape, or form. So your end pivot table should match mine in that. Okay, the next section is on VLOOKUPs. Again, if you're new to VLOOKUPs, this is a great way to get yourself introduced to these. They're used all the time in data sheeting again. And so if you're familiar with these, good. This would be easy. So follow the instructions. Here, this link opens up this file. It has 3 tabs. You have instructions here on how to add it to your own drive, and then bring the tabs over into your main doc. So this same document where we've done the geocoding and everything else is where you want to add these in. All right, so I've got those 3 things in here. Here, following the instructions, we're just going to grab these column headers, drop them into the names here, and then we're going to use VLOOKUPs to look up the address that matches the organization, right? So here, these are the organization names. We only have 3 organizations: the Arkansas, Central Texas, and Utah Food Banks. All right, so you can actually just put it in here. I did the values only just to get rid of the color coding stuff. But what is this actually doing? So here it's lookup. You want to grab the column here, the organization column. Then you're going over here and saying, hey, look at the stuff between here. I usually set this as 1 and false just to get myself situated in here so that I can double check that this is actually working correctly. So this should say exactly that. You can see that this one also uses the false function there, telling that it's not sorted. Once I have established that this is correct, and I will just drag that across so we can edit things here. So these are all referencing. Okay. Because I'm not that, this is the long way, not the best way of doing this, but just so These are all going to reference the B's. These are all looking at A through E. There's better ways of doing that. But since I'm live and I made the mistake already, I'm just going to keep rolling with it. Okay. There we go. All right, so these all say the same thing, Central Texas, right? But we know that we're on the right organization. So if you look at the addresses, this is actually column 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's what this one is for. So this is column 2, column 3, column 4, and column 5. Now that is telling us the information that we wanted it to tell us. That's all. So we can just drag those down, and anytime it says Texas, we can double check it says the same thing, which is brilliant. It took me a long time to figure out pivot tables because I was doing it on my own. But that is, or not pivot tables, but VLOOKUPs. So yeah, so go ahead and do that. Get our VLOOKUPs through here so you have the addresses to go along with our organizations there. All right, this part here about spreadsheets and relational databases, you can go ahead and skip this. There's an entire class on databases, although we don't use the free stuff that they're trying to get us to use. Yeah, go ahead, yeah, but just go ahead and skip this particular section. So by the time you finish with this, you should have multiple tabs in here. The first one, and again, sorry, my Zoom controls are right in the way of my tabs. So we should have a form responses one that should look like this, a pivot table like this, form responses here. If you put in play data, that's totally cool. If it's blank like this, that's fine. You should have a geocoding thing with at least the SBU added, and then those 3 tabs with the names with our VLOOKUPs in there. And you can see, I can see the VLOOKUPs from there. All right, so that is our spreadsheet skills basic primer thing. Hopefully it doesn't take you too long to actually run through that.